I'm not late. The stream has begun, my good man. But people are loading in, you see. That's how we do it. That's what us pros like to call the load-in. The load-in. Sounds filthy. I am become Starboard now. Fuck you, gift makers. Here we go, boys. Wow. Wow. I know I've been away. You see, I've been to the Starfield. Tomorrow normal streams resume. I'll be putting up my review this weekend, maybe tomorrow, of Starfield. This is not that. I hope that we will avoid spoilers on this free swim about Starfield. I mean, you know me, I'll talk about whatever the fuck you want, but it's mostly about Starfield because I can't stop thinking about it. A lot of people are talking about it. I finished it last night. According to my Xbox, I've played about 57 hours. That doesn't feel right. My guess would be, I mean, there are times when I left it on, but my Xbox turns off after being idle for 30 minutes. So, it feels more like I played about, to get what I finished, and I went through the main mission. I did, maybe 80% of it was going through the main quest line. 20% of it was just playing around with some of the side quests, which were awesome. And then I did about an hour or two this morning of New Game Plus because I wanted to see what that was about, which is very cool. So my guess is my playthrough to get through the quest with all those little caveats would be about 30 to 36 hours, but I don't fucking know. But boy, I'll tell you what. Let me cut to the chase. I will do a more detailed review. I absolutely adored it, and I want to talk about why. I want to talk about why some of you guys love it as well, and some of you guys hate it. What the media is saying, what some of the comments have been saying. I do want to not welcome back, but say thank you for 34 months of support. So totally sick of onions. Thank you, pal. Very, very generous. You got your little cartoon. It's about time to change those stickers. We're going to get a new avatar sticker there for people who've been with us for over 2 years. But thank you so much for that support, that continued support. Totally sick of onions. I appreciate it, pal. Am I going to be on the Side Scrollers podcast? Is that the guy that was doing the trans stuff? I don't think so. I mean, he wrote to me today and says to me, I think that's the guy you're talking about. He says, hey, I saw your video about me and I talked to Colin, got your info. Do you want to hook up and do a thing? And I'm like, yeah, maybe. But what's the point? I mean, it's not like how many of these people do I have to talk to? And I give them my heartfelt experience, with the trans son. And then they're like, okay. Then they go off and nothing changes. So I'm not entirely sure. Not entirely sure if it's worth it, but we'll see. Let's talk about Starfield. First question I want to know, this is Brian East, Jaffe, according to your view, game of the year, game of the generation. Okay, let me be very clear on this, because some people got pissed over the weekend when I tweeted out that before I had finished it, it was in my top 3 games of all time. And then last night when I finished it, I'll just read you my tweet if you haven't seen it, because it kind of bears repeating, possibly. Because some people really kind of took it the wrong way, which, whatever, fuck you, I don't care. But it does make for interesting discussion. So I says, last night I tweeted, I said, and that's Starfield. I've only completed the main quest and touched a bit of the side stuff. But at the moment, it's the best single-player game I've ever played. Everything I was hoping for and more. Thank you, Bethesda, Starfield, Phil Spencer. This had to be a hell of a boulder to push up the hill. But y'all made a damn classic and it touched my soul. I'm so appreciative. So that's what I said. And people were coming at me and going, oh, it touched your soul. Like, I've been called a shill, which again, you guys know, I literally turned down money 2 weeks ago after I had already done the stream for one of these mobile phone games, right? I will be happy to shill if I believe in your product. I just didn't believe in their product. So if Microsoft wanted to pay me, not that they need to, because I'm doing it for free for whatever it's worth. If they wanted to pay me and say, Jaffe, will you shill Game Pass? Will you shill Starfield? I'd go, oh, with pleasure. I'd be happy to, because I love both those things. But don't ask me to pull my punches when it comes to my criticisms of Xbox and Microsoft, which is probably why they haven't reached out, or I'm just not big enough. It doesn't matter, though. So I'm not a shill. I didn't say it's the best game ever made. I don't know what that means. So people are like, you're telling me this game is better than this game, or what about the animations? What about the bugs? What about the jank? And I'm like, dude, I'm telling you my personal opinion, which is all the value I can offer you. I'm not a scientist with, you remind me, some of you people remind me of that. If you ever saw Dead Poets Society with Robin Williams, great movie, doesn't hold up very well. It's a little cheesy today, but back in the day, it was really inspiring. And they had a part in the movie where all these kids, these high school kids, were taking poetry class, and they used it kind of as a point to mock discussion that didn't really come from an intellectual place. It came from more of a kind of corporate, closed thinker space of like, here's how you judge a poem, and you can graph out the value of the poem based on these 6 ideas, and if it's a good prose, then it goes here, and if the language is above this level, it goes here, and at the end you can calculate a number and that will tell you the best poem. And it was like, are you out of your fucking mind? Well, a lot of people today seem to want me to do that and want people to do that. I don't know what the best game is. It's delightfully subjective. What I will tell you, it is, as I said, it is my favorite single-player game of all time. And what's fascinating is it is in the middle. Somebody wrote this, and I thought it was really smart. It's in the middle of this, massive open world game with all these things that you can do and all these choices that you can make. But the main quest, which is what I'm talking about, was just so good. And I'll tell you why I think that. I want to get to the chat in just a second, but I'll tell you why I think the chat is so the chat's good too. But the main quest was so good. And so I'm responding to it from a personal standpoint. And I will say this. This is one of the best written video games I've ever played. But at the same time, you can't not acknowledge the fact that they had a lot of the heavy lifting done by other media, right? So that's why I say if you're a kid of the 70s and 80s, and specifically a geek kid, and you came up just absolutely in love with movies like Space Camp and The Black Hole and Star Trek, not even Star Wars. This does not feel Star Wars at all. It feels very Star Trek. And then moving on, Interstellar, Contact. You grew up listening to Carl Sagan. You watched the space shuttle first launch. You watch it explode. I don't mean to say that if you're older younger, you won't have the same feels. You may not. I couldn't tell you. I don't know that. But a lot of the game piggybacks on the sort of not just goodwill, but sort of already done work of pumping you up about the love of space and exploration and the best of humanity and all that stuff. And so, it's a wonderfully written game in spite of that, right? And I think it's important to acknowledge that, because when I say it's my favorite single player game of all time, not all of it by any means, but a meaningful part of why I say that is because it captures so much about and makes you return to that feeling that you had when you were a kid, and it was more optimistic and space was exciting. And whenever I put on my Batman glasses, this is spoiler territory, and spoilers will last no more than 20 seconds. Okay. So I want to say something, and here go the glasses. You can just turn your volume down. It'll be off in 10, 15 seconds. But there's a part in the game where you literally go to Earth, which has been totally abandoned and rendered useless, and you visit NASA. You fucking visit NASA. And then there's a part where the whole NASA structure's been destroyed, but you can go deep underground and find like a museum where you see the lunar lander, the Mars rover, you see the first spacesuit that, the Apollo astronauts wore, and then you see some sort of speculative fiction fantasy stuff of after moving on. And I'm not going to be a baby. It didn't make me cry, but it absolutely hit me emotionally. The idea of seeing all that in this game, going to NASA, going to I guess it was Houston, and it's built within or buried within this massive space opera that we'll never live to see in real life. So, I mean, that was just powerful. And so a lot of it is that, but another big part of it is the writing, and I won't spoil anything, but the writing of the game, of the main quest. I'm not saying this is how they made the game. I have no idea how they made the game, but it does exactly what a game should, that's a narrative-based game, at least the main quest, which is it feels like it was written first and designed second. It probably wasn't, and you shouldn't necessarily make a game that way. But most games are like, it's a very simple plot. Certain things happen along the way in cutscenes and whatnot, but what you as the player are being asked to do is go from A to B and get this and do that. And this certainly has its fair share of that, but the main story is constantly twisting and turning, and there's about 3 to 5, depending on how you play, very meaningful choices that you're asked to make. There are payoffs for everything. There is metaphor in this game, probably better than any I've ever seen. I'll talk about it in my review, but let's just say even in the, I felt this at first, and I'm like, that's stupid, Jaffe, you're reaching. But at the end, it was kind of confirmed. Let me just say that the HUD, the menu system for inventory, I don't mean the stuff people are complaining about. That's a valid complaint. But the layout of the menus and how you navigate through the big menus, like my weapon inventory, and then it goes to my character, and then it goes to the planet system, and then planet, and then the system the planet's in, and then the universe, and then sort of how that's all stacked and layered and the order it comes in. Total metaphor for this fucking game. It is a smart game. It is smartly written. It is wonderfully voice acted. It is incredibly immersive. And the last thing I'll say before I go to chat is it reminds me of two things. It reminds me of when a great TV series that you adore ends, like that you've been watching for many seasons, like 4 to 5 to 20, whatever. And it feels like your friends are going away. That's what this feels like when I finished it. But the new game plus, which I will not spoil, is so fucking weird and wonderful because of how the main quest ends. It's very trippy and interesting and wonderful and weird. I have a lot more to say. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's delightful. So, Mutant Mo, buddy, welcome back to the Diet Soda Soldiers. You're always there. You're always lurking in the corner of my bedroom with a jar of Vaseline and a monkey named Fred, and I appreciate it, buddy. That's how I know I'm loved. Thank you, Mutant Mo. I appreciate it, man. Let me get to some of these super chats. We have RB has stepped up to the plate. He says, my girlfriend and I just made love and then happened to stop by your live stream about this wonderful game. Hugs from Brazil. You are a legend. Thank you for the super chat, RB. I'm not entirely sure why you needed the sort of preamble that you and your girlfriend made love. But great. I'm glad that I'm your, post-coital cigarette, metaphorically. Welcome to you both. Good to have you here. Stephen Hawkins has been a member for 17 months. That's a lot of fucking time, generous support. He says, I wanted to know, so thank you. I wanted to know if the narrative is worth it or if it's just kind of there. What is it like compared to No Man's Sky? And can you get your sexy on in it? Okay, so I have not really played No Man's Sky other than some trade shows. What I hear about No Man's Sky is this tracks from what I understand about it, is it's a space simulator more. Everything from sort of the obvious, like you get in a ship, you fly off planet. It's seemingly seamless, you fly where you want to go. There's no loading and all that stuff. There's no cutscene transitions. You're just there. And if you're looking for that, my understanding is No Man's Sky's got you covered. Elite may very well have you covered, but I've never played it. Certainly Star Citizen, right? But this really isn't that. People who came into this expecting a space sim, I think, are going to be very disappointed. This is an adventure that takes place in space, and there's a lot of freedom. Probably not as much freedom as I'm going to get Baldur's Gate and start playing it tonight. Probably not as much freedom as they have in that game, but there's a lot of freedom, which leads to a great sense of immersion. There's wonderful writings in the main quest and in the side quest, and in that, out of all the ones that I'm aware of that I've played or I've read about or talked to people about, Starfield feels like it's a game for the people that love the romance of space and the high adventure of space and I was so delighted when it turned out that it wasn't just lip service when they're talking about a game that deals with the big questions and deals with God and where did we come from and why are we here? All that actually gets addressed. All that gets paid off. And, some of it's better than others. When you offer that level of discourse in a movie, you're never really going to be satisfied, right? It's like the end of Contact. Contact's one of my favorite movies, but what ends up happening at the end of that movie, I'm like, I wanted to know more, But that's what you get out of Starfield. I don't think No Man's Sky gives you any of that. As for the sexy, yeah. I mean, it's not like Cyberpunk. I don't think there's actual sex in the game, but let me not spoil something. There was a character in the game that I liked a lot that I took as my traveling companion. And the game, by the way, is very Doctor Who, and especially when you get to the ending. You're like, in all kinds of ways, whether they meant it or not, this is very Doctor Who inspired. It feels also like you're playing a Star Trek episode. It's not like you have an away team, but when you go to a planet and you're going with your companion, and sometimes there's a third companion, which I think was a bug actually for me, but whatever. And you're on these like very next gen philosophical journeys, but you're in more of a original series. Like I went to this one planet with these crazy scorpion monsters, and you had to find this sort of archaeological ruin about the scorpion sting. And it felt like you were like in the original Star Trek. You know, I loved that. And there was one companion that I took more than any others, and I really got to know this character. And I was like, I'm a romance this character, and you can do that. My understanding is you could even marry these characters, but I didn't make whatever the choices were that I needed to make. So at the end, this character and I never became romantic, even though the character acknowledged that I had those feelings for them. But they had some other stuff going on where they couldn't quite figure out how they felt. I mean, it's good. It's really fucking good. Thank you for the super chat. Tony's channel, thank you, buddy. Been a member for 2 months. He says, the PS fans on social media are super toxic, especially about Starfield. I mean, I don't know what to tell you about these people. Despota says I was friend zoned. I don't know if that's actually what happened. I mean, I'm not spoiling anything, so I don't want to tell you. But it's really, it was really cool. It was really cool. As for your comment, Tony's channel, though, these toxic people, the ones that are serious about it, I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, at this point, you just have to make the assumption that they are, you know, there's a lot of their own personal shit tied up into these things. And I don't think that's very healthy, but, Bukaki says not completing a video game romance is very low T. Probably true. That's okay. But it, you know, I don't want to, like, you know, when you watch Jerry Springer and you feel a lot better about yourself back in the day, because it's like, okay, maybe I'm fucked up like we all are, but I ain't that fucked up. So I don't want to beat up on these people. Maybe I don't know why they're so, you know, when I was a kid, I was the same way about movies. You know, I would get so mad when my favorite director movies, you know, weren't number one at the box office or didn't win an Oscar and all this shit. But I was a kid, you know, I was like 14. Now these are some grown ass adults that if they're grifting, it sucks, but hey, grifter's going to grift. That's the way it is, I suppose. And if they're not grifting and they're serious, I go, well, I can't help you. Not that you need my help, but I can't help you. It's not healthy. It's not healthy. You've put you know what I think about that. I'm not going to get into it, but that's what I think. It's what I think. On Andrew C, thank you for the super chat, buddy. I appreciate it. He says, I think you hit the nail on the head with older gamers liking it more. I'm 35 and the game's absolutely incredible. Well, again, thank you. I don't know if that's accurate. I know that if you came up with, and I'm 16 years older than you, so obviously the stuff that was seminal to my teenage years, you were a wee baby. But, you know, if you came up and you were motivated by Westworld, the original, and what's the other one? Obviously all the Star Treks, but even like Explorers, the Joe Dante film Explorers, and the soundtrack is probably the best soundtrack I've ever heard in a video game. I don't know if that's true, but it's certainly up there if it's not the best for me. And the influence of this, yeah, you hear a lot of John Williams, but you hear a lot of Jerry Goldsmith. If you know about movie composers, you hear a lot of Bernard Herrmann, who was like a 70s, 60s, did a lot of the Ray Harryhausen. I think he did Forbidden Planet. You hear some Hans Zimmer. There's definitely that sense of majestic space stuff that my generation kind of really came up with. So I am curious to see what the demographics are on this. If like a 20-year-old plays this and is like, whatever, you know, but someone like you and I are like, oh my God, you know, Space Camp, it's so fucking cool. I don't know, but I appreciate the super chat, buddy. JW, you've been a member for 15 months. Thank you for that, buddy. I appreciate the support. He says, not sure if you touched on this, but somebody on Twitter, I'm not going to call it X, my good friend, was calling for Sony to fire Alana Pierce for publicly playing and enjoying Starfield. Well, again, this is one of those things. I know who you're talking about. It's that guy who has that, I think his account is called AP, @AP. And I don't know if he's a grifter or not, because I don't know if he makes any money off this. Maybe he's just delusional. But it's like, you moron. I mean, that's just dumb. What an idiot. You know, what's funny about, and then she went on, I saw her rebut video, like, I was just talking to Corey Barlog about how much we're loving this game. Neil Druckmann says one of his favorite series is Gears of War. The ironic part about it, at least in this case, but it applies. It's not just like Sony fans are any worse than any other fandom like this. But, you know, if you take away the experiences of the developers you love, where they are going out and playing everything, mobile phone games, MMOs, games from Nintendo, games from Microsoft if they work for fucking Sony, Sega games, you know, crazy, weird fucking games on the internet. If you take that away from them, that love of the medium and that ability to learn and grow and immerse themselves in the medium and what works and what doesn't work across the board, their games that you claim to love would be worse. So honestly, people should be like, I mean, look, Sony needs a Starfield. That's the goddamn truth. They don't need Starfield, although for Sony, I'm sure that would have been nice. They wanted to have it. But this is one thing you do look at and you say, Sony doesn't have this. They don't have a game like this, okay? And they should get one, because when you look at Elden Ring, when you look at, you know, I mean, Baldur's Gate is still geeky, sub-geeky. It's like a sub-genre, right? But if you look at like Elden Ring or Skyrim or this, there, you know, there is clearly a very big market that is growing and growing for more systems-based, heavy IP video games. And Sony doesn't have it. And I don't know if it makes better sense for them to take an IP they already have. Like, part of me is thinking, you know, they could take Ghost Tsushima, which I'm sure they're not, and really Starfield up Ghost Tsushima. Or they could say, fuck it, let's do a new thing, which is always fun. I mean, I would love someone to, and maybe the IO team's already doing this. I don't know how big their world is and how open the whole experience is, but I would love a secret agent fantasy wrapper in this kind of game. I know there was the, what was the one that Obsidian made, but I could never get into it. It was always too buggy. But like where you can fly all over the world and, you know, go in these cool private planes and find underground bases and shit of like crazy madmen and stuff. I mean, but I think Sony needs absolutely a game of this type. And I can't imagine they're not working on. I hope it's not Horizon. Horizon is just, I'm sorry, Horizon is arguably the best looking video game ever made. It's just fucking insanely good looking, but it's boring to me and to a lot of people. It is not the franchise they think it is. It cannot do that heavy lifting, at least in my opinion, with the current kind of creative of it. And I don't, you know, just give us something. Get some fucking good writers. That's not what they do that well over there in Guerrilla. Get some good writers, some good IP builders. Maybe that's what Corey's working on. I don't know what he's working on. Last I heard it was a space game, but that's like everybody has heard that. Hell, Naughty Dog was making a space game, right? So I don't fucking know. But all I can tell you is I think that people, JW Conglomerate, who complain that Sony people are playing and praising a game like this don't have a pot to piss in. That's why you love them, because they love the medium first. They're not little tiny stupid fanboys. Levi, what an interesting name. Levi Sorensen of the Montana Sorensens. I think you guys were the ones that your family was sort of the inspiration for the show Yellowstone. He is super chatted. I appreciate it, buddy. He says they've done some really cool stuff with the story in New Game Plus. The more I play it, the more I got sucked into it. I agree. And let me tell you something about that real quick. Two things on that. First off, I've seen comments like, this is so weird. Jaffe says he doesn't have patience for boring games, and everybody says this game takes 10 hours to get going. Well, look, I don't know if that's true. What I know, and this is not a good thing. Hang on. Oh my God, the cup of life from Taco Bell. Speaking of, this show is, as always, sponsored by our tell you something. Let me fucking tell you something. The story and the next New Game Plus. So, two things on this. The first one is, I started playing the story, or I finished the story last night, and I started the New Game Plus. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but what I find amazing about it is it doesn't feel like most New Game Pluses, right? It doesn't feel like when I finished Resident Evil 4 this year, and it was like, oh, now you can play the whole game again, but now you get these weapons. It's part of the writing. It fits, and it's clever, and it's like I said, it's very Doctor Whovian in some ways. I agree with that. I love it, and my mind's still trying to get around it. And I don't want to. Let me spoil it real quick. I'll put my glasses on. When the glasses come off, the spoilers are done. Take 10 seconds. So what I'm saying about it is you basically reincarnate into one of these sort of higher beings, and you don't lose your memories, but you go to a different universe. It's like a multiverse, right? And what's cool about it though is it's certain. It's kind of like, it's not as dramatic as like Back to the Future 2 with Biff, when you go and Biff suddenly runs everything, but subtle things have changed. And even I'm almost certain you're going to encounter characters that that have an ability to remember, who you were in the other universe, even though all those characters are back, and you can tell them, hey, I was this to you. And they're like, I don't remember anything that you're talking about. Like, the game actually writes the New Game Plus. It's insane. It's wonderful. As for the side missions, so people saying, Jaffe, why don't you get bored with this game? Like everybody says, start slow. It may have been that the reviews came out and I was able to kind of skim them enough to go, don't get derailed with the side missions. And it's hard not to, because they're really good and they're interesting and they're well written and they're fun. But I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to, with the exception of exploring here and there, just to kind of feel it and get some resources to play the game, I am going to follow the main quest line. And I did that for about 80%. And I didn't get bored at all. I was just like, this is fucking great, and things are happening and things are changing, and I thought the story was going here, but then I made this choice. It reminds me very much of Deus Ex in some ways in terms of its structure, or at least what Deus Ex wanted to do and what it felt like back in the day. It reminds me of Half-Life. To me, this is a very important game in whatever you would call that subgenre. It's kind of like simulation sandbox, but it's not like a Ubisoft sandbox game. It's like the world is a sandbox, but there's this it's almost like they made a great Sony, not with the production value, don't come at me with that shit. They made a great Sony single player adventure game, and they laid those breadcrumbs throughout a very big open free world that's great in its own right. So for me, because I followed that trail of breadcrumbs mostly, I was able to sort of get that more focused experience. But I am so worried and excited because I don't know, maybe I'll get bored of it after 2 days. I mean, I'm not like, this is the best game that's ever been made, it can do no wrong. It's already won that for me. I don't know how long New Game Plus will keep me engaged, but right now, all those side quests that I didn't do, or all those planets I didn't explore, and there's so much to do and so much to explore, and they give hints about what might be out there. I saw today somebody tweeted, let's just say that if you go to Earth, there are certain things you can find on Earth that you're like, oh, that's fucking cool. So I'm excited, although I want to get into Baldur's Gate 3 tonight, so I don't know where my time's going to go, but I'm a fan, man. Thank you, Levi, for the super chat. Yorch, been a member. Thank you, buddy. 23 months. I'm not just going to do the super chats. I'll look at the main chat, but I certainly want to get to these, which I appreciate. Thank you, guys. So far, it feels like the weaker but more realistically looking No Man's Sky with a lot of catch up. I hope they continue to improve it. I'm enjoying it, just not crazy about it. I'm curious about what you're not crazy about, because I wouldn't want this to be No Man's Sky. Like when I saw the Alana Pierce video last week, hang on. Aspartame. Cold. I saw the Alana Pierce video last week where she was talking about, you have the spaceship outside of orbit of the planet, and it's just like a small little area that you can fly around in, right? And there are these little jumps between, if you want to go there and land on the planet, then you have to select where you want to land from a menu, hit land, and then it'll do a cutscene or it'll do a load screen and land. And I know a lot of people were going, oh, that's not what I wanted. I don't know why these choices were made. I'm sure some of it was technological. Some of it was sort of, you rob Peter to pay Paul in every video game. But when you actually get into the game and you start moving around this massive universe, it's just fucking awesome. The last thing I want to do is sit there and I don't want to fucking do that. It's kind of like Mortal Kombat, right? I love Mortal Kombat. I'm very excited for the new one. I played the beta when it was out, or the network test a couple of weeks ago. And just like all the games from NetherRealm, they're brilliant, and I can't wait for this game. But after you've seen the rib crack X-ray effect, or the really cool super finishing move from, Raiden or whatever, 20 times, you're ready to move on, and this game, is just like, if it would have had all that stuff, because here's what it probably would have come down to. If they could have pulled it off, let's just imagine they could, and it was a pure creative decision. If they could have pulled that off, the amount of work and effort to pull off because a lot of people have been like, well, just let me do it if I want and I can skip it if I don't. The amount of work that would have had to gone into something that they, I think rightly so, assumed that 90% of the audience, after they were like, whoa, we'll just skip it, would have taken much more away from other aspects of the game, quest and branching within the story itself. So I after 5-10 minutes of going, oh, this isn't what I thought it was in terms of how you navigate, I was very happy with the way you navigate in this game and get places. It has load screens. That's shitty. They don't last that long. A couple of them are weirdly long, but most of them are like 3 to 4 seconds. It feels like, I got a lot of shit on the internet because I was like, they really need to move on from this fucking engine. People, you can't do what they do on any other engine. It's like, shut up, you idiot. They're not launching space shuttles literally. It's like, well, you can't look at all they keep track of. Yeah, I know. A programmer can get into Unreal 5 and figure out how to create a system that tracks a sense of consistency over the course of a large space and a series of large spaces. They're not cracking and splitting the atom here, fellas. And also the game is staggeringly beautiful in parts and insanely ugly in other parts. I don't give a fuck what you say. Like, I was on Gaz's show a couple of nights ago, and he's just like, what are you talking about? And I'm just like, I can show you. It'll be in my review tomorrow. I mean, not just the faces of some of the NPCs, most of them. Not the ones that are main NPCs, but like extras and stuff. But you can go from an environment that is just awe-inspiring, just a beautiful planet with the rings of Saturn literally in real time rising over the horizon, quote, rising over the horizon. The ambiance, and it starts to snow, and you're just like, what is this magic? It's delightful. And then 2 minutes later, you can be walking around the outlands of New Atlantis, which is kind of the main hub of the game, and it looks like, I shit you not, an early PS3 game. It looks like Haze. If you remember Haze, it's just like the plants look like they're flat shaded cards. Like, they used to just still do it this way in a lot of ways, but it was just, you could tell there was like 4 flat polygons stuck together and alpha'd out, and it's like, there are your trees. I mean, it's insanely bad looking in places. So, but in terms of catching up to No Man's Sky, I hope that's not what they're doing. I don't want this to be that. That is already that. And you can play that on Xbox or wherever you want to play it. PC, PS5, VR. If they're going to do more with this, which I have to assume they are, I want more story, more missions, more companions. It's cool. And I'll tell you one other thing about it is the upgrades, at least to the ship. I was flying my main ship that you start with for 95% of the game. And then there's a point in the game where, this is not a spoiler, but for me, with how I was playing it, I needed to get to some place and I couldn't get there without a ship that could light jump or grav pull or whatever they call it more than my ship could do. And I had tons of money because it was towards the end of the game. So I went and bought a better ship that can do that. And that's the only reason I bought it. But the difference between the ships, it's not like a lot of RPGs where, oh, I'm good at shotguns, I'll put a point in, and there's a mathematical 2% upgrade to the damage, but you really don't feel it in real time. It's only after, you've upgraded from like level 1 to level 20 that you're like, holy shit, I'm a badass, right? These ships they fly meaningfully different depending on how they're built and which ones you buy or if you build your own. So I went from a decent ship to a ship that was speedy and fast and felt like it was a fucking race car in space. I mean, it was the shit. I fucking loved it. Random Moose Brain says, thank God NFL season starts today. I saw that and I've been playing Madden on EA trial. I missed the Auburn game this weekend, but I mean, it's preseason with the SEC and stuff. And I'm like, who'd they play, right? It's whatever. But I may actually catch some of the game tonight. What is it? The Lions versus, I don't know who they're playing, whatever. But I am looking forward to some football. Stephen Hawkins, thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, you don't have to answer this, Jaffe, but I was wondering how you were doing. Saw you were missing your dad. What was he like? No, he was an army cook like I was. Oh, well, that's very kind. The super chat's very kind. And more importantly, the question is very kind. I'm doing fine. My dad never played really video games. He gave me quarters for him. This is the kind of game he would love if he played games, but he never did. And now he can't because he's dead. My brother, who's a little older, comes in and out with video games. Like, he's not really a gamer at all. But I did reach out to him. I said, look, you love space. You love Star Trek. You love all this shit. You love, Carl Sagan and Contact and all this. Just, get Game Pass for a month, stream it to your fucking computer. He has great internet and he's close to Atlanta where there's a good server. Just play this thing. You may not like it, but my family, at least my dad and my brother have always been really into this kind of shit. And, I think my dad would have loved it. But as for how I'm doing, good. I mean, I'm, with your parents when they die, I was one of those. We'll get back to Starfield, I promise. But thank you, Steven. I was one of those guys that, for some reason, and maybe it's just because it's unknowable as far as thus unknowable. I was really scared of my parents dying. I was just like, I don't want that to ever happen. I don't know. I know. And when it happened, it was sad, but I was like, it didn't destroy me. And I remember my mom told me once a while ago, she said when she was alive, she's dead too now. I guess I killed her. What? She said, she said she remembered a time where she was putting gas in her car and her dad had died 6 months prior and she just broke down. And I said, why? And she said, because I realized at that moment, it hit me that I will never see my dad again. And I don't know if that's true or not. It's probably true, but I don't fucking know. And this game, by the way, Starfield actually deals kind of, sort of in elements with that too, which is one of the reasons I love it. But I guess the point is that for me, I was like, oh my God, that's going to be awful. And I never really had that. And I'm grateful for that. But I do miss them, of course. And I still talk to them. I still see them all the time in my dreams. Are they visitation dreams? Am I just thinking about them? I don't know. I don't care. My brain at the time doesn't know the difference. It's just like I'm hanging out with them, so I'll take it. But I'm doing well. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I need to lose a little weight, not for vanity reasons. I want to be healthier. As I'm getting older, I'm starting to feel the extra weight I'm carrying around. I'm not a fan. So I'm going to try my best to eat a little healthier. And I do work out, but work out more than I should. Okay. Let me get to the real live chats that are happening right now, but thank you guys. Ravnos is talking about the engine. He says, the game can't handle transitions from large place to large place, so no flying around planets or real-time planet to planet atmosphere. Yeah, like I said, the people who are looking for that, they can get that elsewhere. But that's, that would never be that would never be the reason I think you would want this game and fall in love with this game. Ultra Awesome says Starfield is great if you've never played another game before. Again, I mean, you can come at me with that bitch, but I guarantee you I've played more games than you have. I've been playing games since 1975 when I played Boot Hill for the very first time in the arcade, or it wasn't an arcade, it was a pool house. I play tons of games. And let me tell you something else. These people who are talking about, well, Jeff, you never finish games. This is a good... I stand on this mountain proudly after having finished Starfield in less than a week, at least the main quest when it came out, okay? Because it struck me at no time during this game. There was one point in the game where I don't think it dragged, but I was kind of tired of having... my OCD kind of kicks in a little bit, and I'm like, I need to pick everything up. And that kind of gets annoying because there's lots of things to pick up at times. But short of that, there was no time in this game that I was ever like, I needed some outside motivation to finish. Like, I want to say I finished it, or I want the trophy, or I have this collection sense of I need to finish everything I play. No outside force other than the game itself should compel you to finish a game. And I'm simply right about this, and you're not. That's the fucking bottom line. Like, unless you go into it with a clear agenda of, I have this thing. Like, I know Colin Moriarty loves his trophies. Okay, that's different. You're playing the game, and one of the main reasons you played is you want these trophies. Got it. Perfect. You know, you got your agenda set from the beginning. No harm, no foul. But don't accuse those of us who walk away from anything, certainly entertainment, certainly games, of being lesser gamers or being less capable of speaking about the experience simply because you muscled your way through an experience that at times the game was letting you down, right? Starfield and Resident Evil 4 this year, both games I finished. I will also finish Dave the Diver this year. So far, Dave the Diver and certainly Starfield and RE4, none of them let me down. Every single fucking moment I could have gotten bored, a new trapeze swung by with something compelling on it, and I leapt for it, and I was right back in the game. So this idea of, you don't finish something, and that is more of a fault of the gamer, that's a load of horse shit. And a game like Starfield comes along, and I think it proves that out. I think you will see a very high completion rate for the Starfield single player. After a lot of the people who got it and returned it, who thought it was something else, are kind of like, people know what it is. I think this is a game that is a delight to play through. There are a couple of places that I'll talk about in my review where I wish they would have done things in the mechanics and the gameplay and how they merge that were a little more clever. But yeah, this is a game that is a delight to play, and it's a game that welcomes you to finish it. So T-Dot says, I tried so hard to like the game, but it just feels shallow. The space travel is just above orbit, and all the load screens ruin the immersion. So I was talking to somebody about this last night on Twitter or somewhere. Sorry, I'm looking at the chat. There are two kinds of immersion that I know of in video games, right? There's, the immersion that comes from the world looking so real or feeling so real, like in VR, that it feels like you're really there, okay? 100%. If that's the kind of immersion you're after, this isn't going to do it for you at all. If you need that in this game, you will not have it. But that immersion means nothing to me because it's nice when you can get it. It's the best thing about VR. But an immersive game, to me, is a game that immerses your brain in the experience, right? Where even in the load screens, you're thinking about what you could do next or where you can go next, and it feels real, and your choices have meaning and they have consequences, and this game is loaded with that. So this is one of the most immersive games I've ever played. Like I said, it sits shoulder to shoulder with Deus Ex and Half-Life, but that's a different type of immersion. So yeah, if you are like, no, I need it to feel like a simulation, totally great. This is clearly not the fucking game for you at all, is what I would say. Rambling Entertain, thank you for being a member for so long. I appreciate it, buddy. He says, you should never force yourself to play a game. I've loved From Exiting the Mind to Right Now. When it comes to reviews, though, you do need to finish it. Well, I don't think you do. I think you need to be clear about how much you've played it. But to me, a very compelling review from someone is, I played it for 5 hours and I got bored and I couldn't play it anymore. Well, I want to know about that. I want to hear about that. I want to hear about what is it that might cause me, after spending $60, $70, $80, to walk away from something after only 3 or 4 hours. Jaffe, what about bugs? Says Brian East. Loading screens and immersion breaking mechanics aside, have you seen the Bethesda charm, in quotes? Yes, but nothing like people were, again, I wasn't there for Fallout 76, or I played Skyrim on PS3 when it launched. I didn't play it a lot, but I played it enough that I didn't feel like this is fucking broken. But people certainly had primed the old pump. Oh, you can't even hear that anymore. Hang on. That's unfortunate. Here you go. When I vomited in the bed, I just laid in it. I'm not even fucking with you. I'd love to get like a sex worker who's a gamer. Shit, what are you talking about? What were we talking about? God damn it, Jeff, you son of a bitch. We were talking about, I don't know, remind me. Fuck. Cathal, thank you, buddy. He says, I've gone space mad thanks to Starfield. It's convinced me to go back and rewatch Babylon 5. Never seen Babylon 5. I should. Everybody at the time when it came out were like, it's just like Deep Space Nine. What's the point? Let me see what I was talking about. I'm sorry, fellas. The glitches. Right. Okay. So what I will tell you is that I noticed the two biggest bugs I noticed. There were crashes. There was one hard crash, and there were about 2 hard crashes where it just stopped on the Xbox X. And there were about 3 times I got stuck in geometry and I had to reboot. So it's kind of like a soft lock. But that was it with that. I noticed one moment where there was some really weird poly stretching, and it looked like, you've seen that before, where something happens in the way it's rendering and the poly gets all and it's like it's a breathing weird thing. That happened once and went away. I had a moment where I came off a ship and I was in my falling animation, and I couldn't get out of it. The game still played, but if you were to go into third person, I'd be doing this. And it kind of fixed itself after about 5 minutes. And then the biggest one that was really, probably the one that would be like, that's bad, was I joined a faction, the Frontiers, the New Frontiers, sounds like a boy band, I don't know. But whatever, this kind of country western faction, cowboys and shit. And I says, okay, well, I'm going to go on a mission. And I was going to go on a mission with this lady who runs the group on that planet, Aquila or whatever, Aquila in the B planet. And she says, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, find me when you're ready. But then she wouldn't stop following me, right? So even in these intimate moments and she would help. She was there killing people that were bad guys and attacking me. She was like this kind of weird companion that every time I talked to her, even though all this crazy shit was happening, she's like, hey, are we going to go to that farm and pick up the bounty? And I'm like, why are you here? It was so weird. And she did not go away until the very end of the game. And no one acknowledged her. And there were times I was having these intimate conversations with characters that were part of the story, and she's just standing there looking at me or whatever. But I mean, it definitely doesn't play like a buggy, janky game. No, I didn't really have any of those kinds of problems. No. Okay. Rambling, thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, not playing a game fully and simply giving your thoughts on the 5 hours you spent on it is not a review. I don't care what you say about that, Rambling. It's a review, right? I mean, in what sense of the word? I mean, are we just arguing semantics? Like you want the word review to mean X and you want the word impressions to mean Y? Fine. I don't care. Whatever you want to call it. But what I will tell you is if a person has played a game or watched a movie and they have, or read a book and they stopped reading it or playing it or watching it, that information as a fellow consumer is as if not more valuable than somebody who muscled their way through it just because it's their job. Okay, so whether you go, yes, but that's not fine. I don't give a fuck. It's, for me, I use it in the same way as a tool that I use what you would call reviews, which is something to help me with a buying decision. You can call it whatever you want, but the only thing you can't call it is not valuable, because that's, I would fight you on that verbally and speed masturbation, but that's it. Kyle Howard, thank you, buddy. He says, only issue I have, super chat, very, very generous, both you guys. He says, the only issue I have with the game is I can't put it down. Oh, and I wish there was a better local map in city. See, this was an interesting, fuck you, Shane. Shane says, Jaffe, you're as talented a YouTube producer as Bethesda are at facial animations. The animations weren't bad. It was the actual art on the faces, but, so I did read, it was Dan Stapleton. A lot of people gave him shit for giving the game a 7. There was very little, if anything, I disagreed with. There was one thing I disagreed with, but most of in his review, I agreed with all of the things he said, you know, or at least most of them. I just don't think that merits the score, but what do I care? He thought it was a 7. Fine, go with God. I don't give a shit. But he had a lot of good points about what didn't work about the game. One thing he did cite, though, Kyle, were the maps and the fact that there are no maps. Now, narratively speaking, it is a little goofy that you are in a world where you can fly ships across light years and you can have all these crazy weapons and, you know, but you can't have a map that basically is on your phone like we have today. But I will say that, and again, I'm not defending the decision because it could have just been we didn't have the time, or I think he was speculating maybe that it would have made the game too much like when you play Darkest Dungeon or one of those games where you go back to the hub and then you pick where you want to go next, but you don't really get to be in the hub. It would have broken the immersion that they did lose for the people who wanted to fly through space. Maybe that's true. I don't fucking know. But after a while, there is a kind of immersion in the space that settles in that is kind of a nice, intentional or not. At least for me, I found sort of a sense of home where once you visit a planet, like once I visited Neon, which is kind of like the crazy Vegas city on a moon or something. Once I started to learn the lay of the land, that mastery of that space was satisfying. You know, once I started to learn the lay of New Atlantis, that mastery of that space was satisfying. I don't know how intentional that was. No fucking clue. But that's how I took it, and it absolutely did not bother me at all. But I get that some folks did. Did I open the phone lines? I haven't. I'm happy to. Do you guys want to call in? Or you can also just join in the Discord. Whatever you want, let me know. If somebody plays the game for 5 hours, they should let us know it's 5 hours. Sure. Oh yeah, Bookster. I don't disagree. I don't think people should lie about it. I think that's absolute value, data that you want. Maskista says Neon, the city, felt like Cyberpunk. At one point, I felt like I was playing Cyberpunk. Well, I'll tell you what I disagree with. Some people have said is Neon is better than Cyberpunk's Night City. No, it's not. No, it's fucking not. Don't be a moron. It's good. It's very fucking good. But it's not, it's not as layered and filled with detail as Cyberpunk. But I will tell you that I am absolutely thrilled to get back to Cyberpunk. I've played about 12 hours of it. I loved it. I got busy, as I do with other games. And now when they drop in November all the new shit, not just the DLC, but all the stuff that's going to apply to the base game, I can't wait to go back. Cannot wait to go back. I did like Neon City. Here's a quick spoiler. It'll last 2 seconds. Don't worry. Everybody was going on and on about the drugs, the fish oil drugs in Neon, whatever they called it, Amber or something with an A. All it does is slow down time. I thought I was going to get some kind of fucking visit from God. And you take it and you spend a lot of money and you get yourself a VIP suite in the club and you go up there and you're like, and you can't even share it with your companions. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to fucking take some dope or whatever this shit is. Aurora, that's right, Merc. And then you're just like, it's just a time slow. Max Payne had a bunch of Aurora, I guess. Spice. It's not called Spice. That's Dune, baby. Anyway. So I was just kind of like going, eh. But anyway. All right. Why no mouse and keyboard support on Xbox? I don't know. I mean, I no idea. Did you get shielded cargo? No. I will tell you another bug, by the way. I will tell you, yes, you can become addicted. I will tell you another bug, by the way, because everybody was raving about the sandwiches and the potatoes and stuff. And so I started finding these dead scientists that were carrying around harvested body parts. But I couldn't land on any good planet because it was embargoed. The body parts are embargoed until 9 a.m. on Tuesday. They were illegal, contraband. And so I'm like, I knew I could get a shield or a ship or an ability to, scam my way into the planet. I didn't have it yet. And so I built a base on a planet called Kurtz, which I have to assume is a lot of the names of planets are clearly, there's a planet called Heinlein. There's a planet called Kurtz, which I assume is based on Gary Kurtz, who produced Star Wars. But I built a base there called Bloody Harvest, and I hid all of my body parts there. And I figured they would just stay there, and they didn't. So sometimes the persistence would work, and maybe it's just something is happening I'm not understanding. But sometimes that persistence would absolutely work. And things I placed at the beginning of the game were there at the end. But both the body parts and also there was a time where I just started, I look like a hoarder. I just started dropping all of my fucking shit because my cargo was full, my cargo hold in the spaceship. So I just started dropping all my shit on the floor of the spaceship. And it was great. And then it wasn't because it just went away. And I'm like, where'd all my shit go? So I don't really understand that yet, what actually occurred. But, it is what it is. Okay. What do we got? We got Osseous coming in with a super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, Jaffe, why do you think reviewers like linear games like Ragnarok average scores a 94 plus and a gym like this gets an 85? Well, I don't know, but I will. Here's what I'll say. I did not like Ragnarok. I appreciated Ragnarok. I thought it was, as I've said many times, beautifully produced, beautifully made, great combat, amazing sound, amazing visuals. But I just thought it was too much of a chore for me and my brain to play. It wasn't compelling enough. It didn't keep me engaged. Not a knock, just one for me. Here's the thing, though. I will tell you that there's 1.5 answers to this question. Okay, the first answer is it may just be that if you are a reviewer, like here's the deal, I would never want to be a video game reviewer because even though I was dying to get back to live streaming, I wanted to play Starfield, and I knew I needed to finish it because I did want to. I was loving it so much, and I did not want to finish it. I was always compelled to keep playing, And I wanted to do a comprehensive review because it's the kind of game that has enough meat on the bone that there's a lot to talk about in a review, and I'm looking forward to doing that tomorrow. But there was still that stress of like, you know, every day I'm playing this, I'm not streaming, and I want to stream. And so I can't imagine if your actual job as a reviewer and you are compelled to finish these games and you're finishing games all the time, that when a game comes along, like a more linear game that holds your hand and shows you a good time and gets you on the ride, in the ride, off the ride in a nice flow, it probably is an easier pill to swallow for a lot of reviewers than a game where it's like, look, here's a world. We'll give you some tips and tricks, but go live. That's a harder thing, especially if the game doesn't tell you that's what it is. Like if you're playing Stardew Valley, you know what you're getting into as a reviewer. But I don't know if enough people knew what to expect. And, you know, it's shitty to say because a game shouldn't have to do that or marketing shouldn't have to do that. But maybe marketing should have made it a little more clear because I don't know how I would have felt about this game if I hadn't checked all the reviews where people were saying, hey, do the main quest sooner than later. You will be glad you did. Otherwise, you can get totally distracted and never come back to it, and it feels like it takes forever to get going, right? So part of it's that. But the 1.5 thing, when I say it's, you know, two things, 1.5 things is, I don't know if you guys saw the news on Rotten Tomatoes that there's a PR firm that movie studios have been hiring for the last 5 years. And I don't know if they were doing the user reviews or the actual pro reviews. I think it was the pro reviews. They would pay these reviewers to spin their reviews pro or con in a certain direction. And that got fed into the algorithm, right? Well, as I've said, all my years at Sony, I never saw anything like that. And I'd like to think that if Sony did pay for reviews, they could have pony up a little bit of money for Drawn to Death. It got a 4 out of 10 on IGN, so I never had that experience. But hell, I was under the impression that you'll get fined by the FTC or the I'm not sure which agency. It might be the who is the agency that does all the consumer protection of entertainment electronics and I don't know, whatever the fuck they're called. That you can get majorly fined for it. So I know Microsoft got fined back in the day. So maybe it's that. Maybe Microsoft got caught and they stopped doing it. Maybe Sony is spending the money, but I never saw anything like that. But I would have told you that I wouldn't have expected movie studios to do it if they could get away with it. And they did get away with it, and they did it. So if I was Sony and I could get away with paying for it, or I was Microsoft or Nintendo, you goddamn right I'd pay for it. I'd pay for it every goddamn day. My job as a business person who runs Sony is not to make fans on NeoGAF. It's to make money. And so if I know that making money comes with good reviews and I can pay for those good reviews, you goddamn right I'd do it. I mean, I'd have a problem doing it, but, you know, it makes sense at a business level. So that would be my answer, buddy. Shadowrun, thank you, bud, for the super chat. Very generous. He says, how many endings did you get? And by the way, I want to let people know that whenever you, unless you're coming from the UK, if you ever super chat me and it's a lot of money or not much money or average amount of money, not that it cares, anything is appreciated. I'm not making a statement on that, but I don't know currency. So sometimes people send me something that's like, you know, some currency and it's like 8,000 and people are like, oh my God. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. So if I ever don't comment, and I'm only saying it because this guy, Osseous, may have just tipped $1, which is awesome. Thank you. He may have just tipped $1 million, which is awesome. Thank you. But I don't know what ZAR is. And so pardon me for not, if it's a lot, I don't know how to respond to that. But like Shadowrun, I know what $10 is. That's a lot of money. I appreciate it. But I appreciate all of it. You know, I just want to be clear. I don't want people to think I'm being a dick for someone who gave a lot of money. I wouldn't be a dick in general. I'd still be a dick if you gave a lot of money. I don't care. I mean, I care. I don't know. It's a really weird thing. I'm not going to kiss your ass just because you pay me money. That's horrible. People do that, though. You got to be careful. Listen, here's what this is much easier than a real conversation. Shadowrun. Thank you, buddy. He says, how many endings did you get in Cyberpunk? I've never finished Cyberpunk. Like I said, I played about 12 to 15 hours of it. I loved it. Thought it was fantastic. And I got busy. So I got to I played the girl who was kind of a street rat, not the one that starts the mechanic, but the one who starts in the city. Her buddy, I was with her buddy for a while. He got taken out. We had that great shootout coming down from the office building. And I think somewhere around there, I got distracted by some other game and I haven't gone back. So I'm going to play it again from the very beginning in November when all the editions drop. Okay. Most reviewers or sites in general are useless now, says Marcus Order. Old-fashioned creations that people shouldn't take seriously. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, some of them, sure, absolutely. You tried to pay me in V-Bucks. My kids would appreciate that. Honestly, reviews online are dog shit, says Kevin. I don't really pay attention. I just play the game and see. Well, see, that's what's really interesting to me about Game Pass. And again, I know, hey man, I'll take your money, Microsoft, if you're watching. I'll fucking shill the fuck out of Game Pass because it's great. It's great. Just like NC says, I like Game Pass because you can ignore the reviews, try it for yourself. Right. It's the whole thing of low barrier of entry makes the critics a lot less relevant. It also means that designers have to do a better job when it comes to designing for being engaging from the start. Because with something, and I don't know if this is just fanboy bullshit or if it's real, but there are people saying, oh, well, Starfield was great on Steam and now there's lots of refunds. Is that true? Let's assume it is true. You know, the game is to blame in that sense. I mean, some people are never going to like a game like Starfield, but if indeed that is a game that people would have loved, but they did not put up guardrails at the beginning to kind of at least not force you, but kind of, you know, even Elden Ring had to go back and point to where the tutorial was. Remember that? It opened with a tutorial, but if you didn't go down into that cave, you'd miss it. So they did a patch and it was kind of very clear, hey, there's tutorial here. Anything on Game Pass or PS Plus, if it's day one or whatever, they owe it to the design and to the overall game to build in, not like boring opening tutorials, but to kind of say, look, we're going to show you stuff in the first hour or two that you're pretty much going to see and experience some good stuff that we think will hook you. Whereas a game like Starfield, I think you can go off the rails instantly. And not instantly, within, you know, everybody has the first opening couple of minutes and you make your character and then you can do whatever the fuck you want. And if you came to this because of all the marketing and it looks like Star Trek and it looks like Star Wars and I want a big adventure and you've never played a game like this and you're just like, oh, this lady said go capture this guy in the Badlands of New Atlantis in this cave. Okay. And then you find yourself wandering around for like 3 hours going, I don't understand. Why am I dying? Oh, I have to get resources and level up and chore up and this and that and the other. You know, I do think that's a problem that needs to be solved. Should have been solved to begin with. It's unacceptable it was this way when you bought the game. But developers had a crutch then. It's like, well, you bought it, you took it home, you downloaded it, $70. It's a pain to get your money back. So we've got you at least for a few hours where we don't have to do that heavy lifting. The good part of Game Pass is people can ignore the critics and they can try things they would usually never try. The bad part is there's more work on the part of the developer to make sure that opening is not just compelling and exciting or engaging, but is partially about onboarding in a way that the player is going to want to play more and not churn out. So Hawking says Game Pass is cool because you can just play a game and see if you like it. It's kind of like GameFly. Absolutely. I played the demo of Lies of P. I don't know how that's going to do because it's actually a little easier than Bloodborne, at least the demo was, but I don't know if people are going to reject it or embrace it, but it's great. It's going to be great on Game Pass. Absolutely. I agree 100%. Rambling has super chatted. I appreciate it, buddy. He says on the topic, of, paid, unpaid reviews, why did Sony blacklist Stevivore? I'm not starting. I don't know who that is. Tell me about it. And who is Stevivore? Why are people writing meow? Do I need to ask? Do I care? I don't care. Maybe your Cats. Remember the play Cats, the musical? That's a terrible movie. I don't know anything about this guy, Steve Avor. Oz, thank you, buddy, for the super chat. He says, one last question, Jaffe. Do you think that this is the game that will save Xbox? If Forza is a hit and Stalker hits and Hellblade hits, do you think Phil's plan is paying off? Yeah, but I don't think one game can save Xbox, and certainly not this game, because I think this game is, I mean, again, it's my favorite single-player game I've ever played. I adore it. I'm in love with it. I can't wait to play it some more. I feel when I remember when, I'll get your question, but, somebody wanted me to turn on the phone. Hang on. I will in just a second after this. And I see P Turtles waiting. So I'll get to the chat in a second. I'll get to your question, but, I forgot what I was saying. God damn it, Jaffe. Well, let me answer your question, and maybe it'll come back to me. So the thing is Starfield, I think, is not going to be for everyone, and it might cause people to churn out, like to subscribe and then walk away and go, "Oh, this is no," and they don't even bother to look at some other gems on the system. The trick with Starfield or Game Pass in general, or saving Xbox in general, is they are now in the business of Netflix, where one hit, whether it's a mega hit or not, is awesome. You got to have them, but you have to have something in the chamber to fire soon. And it doesn't mean everything needs to be AAA, but you've got to keep people from churning, right? So, they can't miss as much as they have been. And so I don't know, none of us know, maybe Phil knows, I don't know, but I don't know if Starfield is the anomaly and Forza is the anomaly. Forza, the new one, is still very simmy. I mean, I know that's a semi-big subgenre, but it's not like you're talking about, a big mainstream Call of Duty game, right? Which obviously they will have eventually. So I think if they can keep firing, and they've built a management team that can create and release in a timely fashion the big ones that are commercial and compelling, and their external management team can go out and find games to put on Game Pass that are equally or compelling in their own way, I think, yeah. But I think Microsoft has had such a history of not doing good, consistent releases well before Game Pass started, that I still think they have a lot to prove. But what a great story, and more importantly for gamers, what a great product if this does actually reflect finally them turning a corner. But I've heard that before, and I'll be very thrilled to believe it if I can see it, and I hope to see it. Is what I would say. Shadowrun, thank you, buddy. He says, was there ever an alternate reality where you chose a different path? What would you be doing? Oh, not in the game. I had sold some television shows when I was in college that had gotten, sold, and we thought they were going to get made. If all the stars would have aligned, I could have been a TV showrunner at this point. But, honestly, if I could go back in time, knowing what I know now, I would have gotten into radio at 18. I think I'm a really good creative, but I enjoy this so much more. I enjoy talking and debating and discussing, and I always have, and communicating, and I always have. And but it never really appeared as anything compelling to me, and I really wanted the life of someone who made movies. But I got to be honest, I was a lot more interested in the life that would come from the success than the day-to-day work of building that success. That's the truth. And it took me a long time to be able to sort of become aware of that, because I really needed that sense of escape from a really, wonderful but also very rocky childhood. And so for me, that was my out. And I wouldn't allow myself to see any other options. But if I could go back, yeah, I would have been listening I mean, Stern didn't really break till I was in college, but in radio people back in the day when I was in high school and stuff were just people who played records. But I think some kind of communication platform I think would have been a path that would be really cool if I could look at an alternate timeline. Absolutely, 100%. Okay, let me get the red phone on. Let me get P Turtle first. P Turtle, I'm going to bring you on, but we're not going to talk for too long because I want to get other people on too. P Turtle, it's Jaffe. What's up? P Turtle, it's Jaffe. What's up? He's not there. All right, let me turn on the red phone. Hang on. All right, if you want to call in. What's up, P Turtle?
What's going on, man?
Well, just playing a game, doing a stream. What's up with you?
Not gonna lie, bro. I kind of missed you while you were gone.
You goddamn right you did. Did your 16-year-old girlfriend miss you?
Hey, let's not get weird here. I'm no pedophile. She's 17.
Come on now, you are absolutely a pedophile. Anyway, so yeah, what's up? It's good to talk to you. Yeah, listen, man. I was I miss streaming as well, but I was very much in love with the Starfield at the time.
I'm happy to hear that. Let me ask you this before we talk about Starfield.
Mm-hmm.
Did you play Skyrim and the Fallout games?
I did. I got out of the vault and fought some people, and I got pretty bored, and so I stopped playing it. And Skyrim, I played a little bit longer, but it didn't grab me. But that may not be an issue with the game so much as it just wasn't. It didn't grab me at the time. It may have been sort of my, where I was in my head and the things I wanted to play. But so I've never been a big Bethesda in terms of RPG guy at all. I've never hated them or anything. They never grabbed me. This grabbed me instantly. And a lot of it is the setting, and a lot of it is the writing and the presentation. And it's a fantasy I want to go on. Like, I'm not really interested. I'll play it. But the idea of like, make, Elder Scrolls 6 or whatever the fuck it is, there's too many fantasy games. I'm over it. This was interesting because I was like, I haven't played a game like that before.
When those Fallout games and the Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls games or whatever, when they came out, you were working, right? You were like,
I was, absolutely.
Okay. Because I have a feeling if Skyrim came out today, and you were in the situation you're in where you're kind of semi-retired and you're doing the streaming and,
Yep.
You might have given Skyrim and
Fallout 3. You're right. It's possible. I mean, look, I'm going to probably play Baldur's Gate tonight, which is fantasy, Lord of the Rings, all that shit. And I hear it's phenomenal. We'll see if it sticks to me. But yeah, you're not wrong. There are definitely games that I walked away from because I was too busy to get engaged with them like that.
Right. I only say that because a large chunk of the criticism with Starfield is that it pales in comparison to Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind, New Vegas. And from what I've played, it absolutely does.
Okay.
And I think that can affect expectations. It can affect your enjoyment of a product.
Sure. Absolutely. Look, I mean, if what are they called? If Bethesda makes Skyrim and they don't take into account the fact that there's a lot of fans that are already very familiar with the formula, and they didn't go above and beyond advancing the formula, then sure, I absolutely think that's a valid criticism. But because I don't have that experience, to me, it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, I would say the formula is a little bit more shallow from my experience so far with Starfield. Whereas Skyrim, you can get lost in it.
Well, I have found that in Starfield, but I don't know enough about the history of their titles to know how much of that is once you've been lost in it. And one, it's harder to get. I don't know why that is for you. Do you like space? Do you like things like Star Trek and Cosmos and
I mean, I'm into it as much as I'm into the fantasy stuff. I mean, I don't really care much about like the backdrop. If it's fun, it's fun. I know with Oblivion, when I had played that, it was pretty mind blowing at the time. The stuff that was happening.
Oblivion, yeah, okay, all right.
yet. I haven't got that yet with Starfield, but I'm not far in it. But I want to say one thing, though. Mm-hmm. The game is, so far, based on word of mouth, reviews, it's a disappointment.
Okay.
I don't think it's a bad game, but it is a disappointment considering.
I mean, how much have you played?
Like 3 hours.
Okay, and what's disappointing about it to you?
To me, it just doesn't get. First of all, I thought the intro was horrendous. I think the writing.
What about the intro? What about the intro was horrendous?
It just was very lackluster. Like if you compare it to Skyrim, immediately you're fighting a dragon, and then you're sent out into the world to do anything you want. Like literally anything you want. Whereas this is a little bit, like I said, it's a little more shallow. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit almost more like Mass Effect, where it's more story oriented. It's pushing you in a certain direction.
Do you think that was the choices you made? What is her name? Lynn or Lim, the lady who's your boss? Do you think part of it is just the fact that she asked you to burn the bodies and shit, and it should be more of a choice versus she forces you to do it, and it's almost like it's scripted at that point?
That's some of it.
I mean, that didn't happen at all in the game, so I'm assuming you haven't played it yet, correct?
No, I swear to God, I played it, but it's
wow.
Like when you go to, and it's all these loading screens. I'll tell you, the first mission I did was I had to like talk the space pirates out of checking my ship or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was okay. I ended up, but to me, the writing just wasn't good. I had to create all these dialogue choices in order to get them to not check my ship, and just the writing, the way it was done was just really terrible. It feels like it was written by millennials.
Well, maybe
Am
it was.
I crazy? Do you think the writing is good?
I think the writing is great. I think the writing is fantastic. I don't think you've actually played it, though, is what I think.
Why? Listen, you can check my Xbox profile or whatever. I swear to God.
I think the likelihood of you playing this game is about as likely as you actually having a girlfriend of any age.
Okay, let me ask you this. If I can prove that I played this game, then that also proves I have a really hot 17-year-old girl.
Why don't you just let me talk to her?
Because she doesn't need to talk to any other guy but me.
Maybe she needs help getting out of your basement. Have you ever thought about that? Maybe she doesn't want to. Maybe she doesn't want to be there.
I definitely don't want her talking to you then.
Yeah, of course.
But
you got no girlfriend.
Game, I swear to God, I wouldn't lie to you. I played the game. I have Game Pass. I did the 3-year conversion.
Yeah.
Where you can Xbox Live Gold for 3 years.
The transition, yeah.
Yeah, I did that with the Xbox, so I have it. I wouldn't lie about it.
Okay. Well, look, I loved it. I know some people don't like the writing. I don't care. I mean, this is one of the fun. I don't mean I don't care that you don't like it. Like it's irrelevant to me what you like. I mean, what I think is more interesting about it is the at least seemingly insistence that people seem to have that you need to agree with their subjective opinion or you're simply wrong. I'm not saying you're saying that, but when I come out and say, "Oh, I love the writing," and I see in the chat right here, people are like, "Oh, but the writing is the worst writing they've done." I'm like, I don't mean I don't care what you think about it, but I'm like, there's no wrong answer. It's like I like the writing. I love the game. It's my favorite single player game I've played. I don't have, I don't know what to tell you. Let me ask you this. Why do you think today's video game fans, and maybe it's just not today, maybe it's fandom in general, why do you think it's so difficult for people to, shouldn't the response be, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't like the writing at all, but that's very interesting. You liked it. What didn't you like about it? Let's talk about that. Or what did I like about it? Why does it suddenly become you're wrong? I mean, you think it's schooling today? Kids don't know how to discuss or debate? You think it's Twitter has made things so binary? What do you think?
Anybody to discuss. I mean, everybody argues. That's what we do. You argue with people all the time.
I don't argue. I discuss and debate things, but that doesn't mean, Yeah, give me an example.
You yell at the chat all the time.
I yell at who?
AI and all this. You can't.
But
tell me you're the same.
No, because there's a difference between arguing over something that is subjective and arguing over something where there are facts for something. If somebody came to me and said, Jaffe, I get what you're saying about AI being the future of entertainment. You may be right, you may be wrong, but there's something personally in me that really bothers me, and I don't think I'm ever going to be able to embrace it like you are. There's nothing to debate. I'd go in, I get it, you may be right. But when someone's like, no, Jaffe, you're wrong, yeah, you're stupid. At that point, that's them's fighting words when it comes to debate.
Well, all right, I'm going to go. I know I've been on. I just want to say one thing. Do you believe right now, looking at the reception of this game so far, I believe on Xbox, it has like a 3.6 rating right now, which is terrible.
Well, my understanding is people are review bombing it. But what are you asking me, though? Do I believe what?
Well, I'm saying on Xbox. Like, if you go on the system, I believe it has. I can't see why Xbox fans would get an Xbox and review it poorly on the Xbox.
I don't know. 9 Live says it doesn't. I mean, I know what you're talking about. I've seen the screenshots, but Andrew's saying that's not true. People in the chat are saying it's not true. But assuming it is true, I don't know whether they're review bombing it or maybe they just don't like it. Maybe I'm in the minority.
All I'm saying is right now, and I'm going to go. But do you think right now that this is a win for Xbox?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, is it the slam dunk that they would have had if it had been God of War 2018? No. Do they want, and are they probably pleased as punch they can next time this year put out Call of Duty for, quote, free on Game Pass? Yeah. They've got some amazing developers, but a lot of them are, sub-niche developers. Like Bethesda's wonderful and Skyrim sold over 20 million, but as a genre goes, these kind of games are not, the Call of Duties, the Maddens, the Gods of Wars, And so sure, I think it's definitely a win in a lot of ways for Xbox, but I also think that I'm hoping they get some more meat and potato games because this clearly isn't for everyone, and that's fine. All right, Pete Charles, I'll talk to you later, buddy. All right. All right. I'll get to these calls in just 1 second. Let me get to some super chats real quick. Thank you, fellas. Okay. We got hello, Stoner Joe. He says more like Suckfield. You ain't played it either, motherfucker. Ben Voigt, thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, Jaffe, have you heard the details of New Game Plus? I was wondering your thoughts as a developer. You should do a video on it. Well, I won't spoil it. I'll talk about it in tomorrow's review. But I think it is really cool. I've gotten to it. I am playing the New Game Plus right now. I love it. I'm not saying this is the only game that's done it, but I love how the New Game Plus really is organic, not just to the narrative of Starfield, but to its overall thematic of what the game is, I think, really about. And there's so much to do in the game that I'll give you an example, because one of the reasons in some ways, this is the best Star Trek game that's ever been made. And I'm not saying it feels like Star Trek everywhere, but like even these sub-quests, and this is not a spoiler, this is one sub-mission. I didn't even do it. I just got to the beginning and said, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. I'm going to stay focused on the main quest. But I'm flying around. I come out of light speed, orbiting this planet, and I see this big fucking ship. And there's some kind of distress on the planet below. They want to land, whatever. They're like, can you help us? So I go over to their ship. I walk around their ship. I meet the captain. And this is not the main story at all. It's a little side quest. And they're like, look, we're the first humans that left Earth X hundred years ago. We've been on this ship for generation after generation after generation, and we finally arrived at the place that we left Earth to get to. And in all that time, mankind discovered light speed jumping and all this other stuff. And so that planet is now occupied. And they're like, well, that's our planet. What are we going to do? And the people down below are like, who the fuck are these people? It's like you've stepped into a Star Trek episode and it's like, help us, right? There's so much to do off by the time you get to New Game Plus that you haven't even scratched the surface, at least if you played it like I did, that I'm just It feels like I have still a brand new game to play, even though I've played for 48, 50 hours, whatever. So that's what I would say, and I sure appreciate the super chat. Thank you, buddy. Do you get to bang any hot alien babes? I have not visited any alien babes. They have aliens right now in my story, but no one is sentient as an alien. They're like monsters and stuff. There may be aliens out there, but in the fiction of Starfield, they haven't discovered them yet. Did you get into the shipbuilding? Only slowly, and I'm slowly getting into what's called the base building. But the thing that's cool about it is, like I said, I finished the game. I'm at level 26, 27, and I didn't build any meaningful bases. I barely upgraded anything except my character, like on all the workbenches and stuff. And I was still able to, fuck you, cocky. I was still able to totally get through the game and felt it was an average game in terms of difficulty. So I was glad about that, because the last thing I wanted is I want to go on the main story, and it's like, well, now we need you to go out and craft and upgrade and find all these resources for the next 6 hours before you can have the next experience. I never encountered that for the most part. There was one moment, but it was very quick to fix. But the shipbuilding, Awesome Tatum, how is it? It's it's a little. You definitely wish you had a mouse and keyboard. It's not the easiest thing, but I assume if you spend a lot of time in it, it becomes second nature like anything else. Interesting. So Ghost is saying, the funny thing is I couldn't make contact with that ship. I wonder why. The one I was talking about in the submission. So I landed on a nearby planet, and they told me about this weird ship, and they won't talk or anything. Isn't that interesting? That's what I'm saying. This game is such a testament. I've told this story before. I'll tell it one more time real quick. Well, maybe 100. I don't know how many times to tell it, but we won the Game of the Year award for God of War 2005 Dice Award. I go to the bathroom. I'm peeing. The late, great Kelly Flock comes up to the urinal next to me. He starts peeing. He says, well, it's amazing what unlimited time and resources will do for a game, huh? And he was always taking the piss. I love the guy. But he wasn't wrong. And I look at this game, and it is so, Alexa, stop. It is so rich with content, that, Alexa, stop. It is so rich with content and writing and choices and options that if you do this, it changes that. That only comes from a lot of time. And my jury is still very much out on Spencer and Booty, and can they actually, was this a one-off? And a lot of it was because it was Todd's group in Bethesda, because God knows Redfall, was what it was. My jury's still out on that, but I will say I love that they gave this game those resources and the time and the money they needed to just keep going to get the vision. Because, again, it reminds me of Deus Ex, but obviously for today, where it feels like you're really in the space in terms of the emergence of your experience. I don't mean in terms of like, oh, there's load screens. So just delightful. Alex says, did Starfield answer the question of why we exist? I'm not going to get into that, of course, but I will tell you that desire I had, that excitement I had when I read the press and they were talking about they were going to ask those big questions. I hoped it wouldn't just be like, no, they get into it. And some of the ways they answered those questions was very satisfying and very evocative and emotional. And some of it was like, but yeah, they went all in, and I appreciated it. Boogster, it's Jaffe. What's going on?
Hey, Jaffe.
What is going on, good sir? How are you?
Not too much. It's going pretty good.
Good. So what do you think of Starfield? You been playing it?
Yeah, I already New Game Plused it. I think
Don't do spoilers. Don't do spoilers. But keep going. I've New Game Plus it too. So okay.
I really enjoy. It's not. I've seen a lot of interesting takes on it. It's definitely not a flawless game, as I've heard. But what I will say about it, in terms of my experience and in terms of all the other Bethesda games I played, I was very, very surprised at just how little bugs that I experienced in comparison relative to the other games. Every Bethesda game I played, in the first 5 hours, my game crashed. At least once, if not multiple
Not
times.
of Starfield. You mean other games they've made?
Yeah, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Skyrim, Oblivion, etc.
Okay.
But Starfield, I did get crashes, but I checked, it was at 15 hours was my first crash.
Okay.
And so I was very surprised about that. Pleasantly surprised because I was expecting to go in and to have all these bugs. Some of the mechanics, I'm actually, even though I put close to 45 hours into it, I'm still learning. Like, I barely touched the base building mechanics, and I feel like in order to experience this full game, if I want to touch on everything just a little bit, I'm going to have to get up to 80 hours into it just to kind of get the whole breadth of the game.
And I don't feel compelled to do that. In other words, right now I feel compelled to do that, but I don't feel compelled like I need to do that, but right now I want to do that. So like I saw people posting pictures of, one guy built a really nice house, a base, but it's a house right overlooking the ocean. And so I didn't do any of that in the main game, but I was like, okay, now in my new game with my new character, I want to start picking up a lot of these cool, relics, like from, I won't spoil it, but all kinds of cool stuff you can pick up and decorate the house with them and stuff, there's like a reason to get this stuff now. So I'm currently excited to do that, but I haven't done it yet.
You can decorate your house with the
I have things? You can draw. I don't know yet. I mean, I know I've seen images of it, so yes, but I don't know if there is a decorate mechanic. I know you can go over in the base building and like make choices under the decorate tab, but I think what this is more maybe somebody had an item and then they dropped it in the right place. They just knew where it would drop, but it's not like it's not like you have like a room and there's a decorating feature like in Palaya or anything like that, or Animal Crossing, as far as I know.
Gotcha. Real quick, because I completely forgot the main thing. There is one question I had. There's always a term you use. I thought when you say production value, do you mean budget or something else? Because originally I thought you meant budget, but I actually, based on your statements, I'm not sure that's what you mean when you say that.
I mean, production value is often a result of a good budget, but it sometimes can be the result of just spending what you have correctly or in smart ways. Production value is just polished, and it looks good, it runs good, it sounds good. It's all the stuff that kind of makes it a professional entertainment product where you don't even really question it. It's just up there with the best of the best in terms of the quality of the external wrapper is what I would say. So I think the production value in Starfield is all over the place. There, like I said earlier, there are moments of visual beauty, and those within minutes are followed up by moments of stuff that looks like it's from 2 generations ago. But I think when you're talking about, you would or you would not.
I would absolutely. I had some NPC that while I was talking to another NPC, their eyes bugged out and it looked like they were a zombie or something.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. And then, but things like the music, AAA from start to finish, right? There are parts of it, but there is an inconsistency mostly amongst the visual aspect of the game. I thought the shooting was really fucking good. I'm not saying it needs to kind of go head to head with, I don't know, Arma or something, but it was a great deal of fun. The AI was just as smart as it needed to be. I love they ran away. I love they took cover. I love, that they seemed like I could predict them, but they weren't totally predictable, so they kept me on my toes. I was a big fan of the shooting.
I would say on the visual stuff, what I have noticed is, and I'll actually use New Atlantis as an exception to this, but what I've noticed is a lot of the procedural generated stuff, that's where I noticed most of what I would call the ugliness in terms of what I've seen.
I didn't find that. I thought some planets and caves and stuff that were clearly procedurally generated looked beautiful. But if you want to see something, I mean, I'm sure you know a lot of people point to this because it's easy to find. But all you need to do is go outside the walls of New Atlantis and walk around, and you're like, holy shit, this looks like this is it's horrible looking. So,
really?
All right, man. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it, buddy. Talk to you soon.
You have a good day.
You too. All right. This is somebody named T. T, it's Jaffe. I don't know. I can't see anything else. Just says T.
Tristan Mike.
Oh, what's up, man? How are you?
Yeah, good.
What's up?
Yeah, no, this is it, man. I just need to get this down because that is tripping me out there. Yeah, good. Just enjoying the show.
Cool.
Playing Starfield. I got 80 hours in now.
What do you think? Obviously, 80 hours is a lot. Do you love it? You hate it? Or you're like, it's okay, but I got nothing else to do. What's your take?
I guess I got to turn that up. Well, yeah, I'm kind of in the...
Are you listening to me on Discord, or are you listening to me on YouTube?
Both.
Don't listen to me on YouTube, because there's a delay of like 7 seconds.
So, which one you want me to listen to you on, brother?
Discord.
Yeah. Yeah, I turned that down. Oh, I see what I've done. Okay, never mind. That's my mistake.
Okay. So, 80 hours in, you're loving it. What do you think of the complaints?
Well, yeah, I'm in the middle, right? Because I was kind of hoping for more of a previous Bethesda experience. So I was hoping for more of that cohesive. I'm in a world and I get to explore this world, as opposed to just piecemeal taking it in, and that can be fine too. But it's definitely not what I was expecting.
What makes it piecemeal? You mean just because it's loading?
Well, yeah, you go to... everything that you do is about loading to another place. Now, I thought about this a lot because this is one of the major arguments, and I thought about Skyrim and some of my other experiences, and there's a lot of loading there. You go into a major city, it loads. You go into your home, it loads. You go into a shop, it loads. So it's not like Bethesda's has this grand world where there's no loading ever.
Okay.
But once you hit that main world, once you kind of are in sort of exploration mode, it feels like you're in a world and you're looking around and you can point over there and I'm going to walk there. And once you get there and you get to a cave, you might have to enter the cave and load, but that's it.
I found that in this game. You haven't found that in this game? I mean, if I land on a planet, other than going into a structure interior, I can walk all over the planet, and, it's pretty fucking big.
So it's that disconnect between being on the planet, leaving the planet, and going to another planet. That's what I mean by the disconnect, where I was expecting that.
How would you solve that? Because, I mean, if you were really looking at a simulation, I know it's solvable. I'm just curious, because in real life, if you were to... like Han Solo with hyperspace, if you're to light jump, would you just be it like Ratchet and Clank when it changes dimensions, and it would just be that? It would just be a big flash of light and you're there, because you don't actually want the experience of having to travel for 800,000 years to get across.
Of course.
Because what I find amazing about this game is you can be on a planet or a moon in a cave, and then you just keep zooming back and zooming back and zooming back, and it's like, okay, now I need to go to this star system, and it's there, and there's stuff happening there. I mean, to me, it feels like sort of what space travel, as a basic, narrative thing would feel like. I'm not saying it solves the problem of people that wanted total non-loading, but again, I mean that's got to be an engine thing too. I mean, there's a point in the game, and I won't spoil it, but where the game needs to load. You finished the main story, correct?
No, I haven't finished the main.
Okay.
I'm inching towards that.
But there's
now.
a part in the main story where the game needs to load a lot of new content really frequently, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of the equivalent of what would happen in Ratchet and Clank when you would jump through universes or whatever, right? Well, I don't think it's the hardware, because the Xbox has an SSD, right? I mean, I think it's that fucking engine they're using, because that was my problem with it. I could live with it. I didn't care because I love so much about it. But when you're doing that dimension hopping or multiverse, whatever it is Ratchet does, and it's not instant, it's like, come on, guys. That's pretty fucking lame. But, I know some people have that problem about the loading and it feeling not immersive. It hasn't bothered me. But then again, look, man, I've played a lot of games. I don't remember a lot of loading in Forspoken, but I only wanted to play it for 2 hours. I don't remember a lot of loading in Horizon Forbidden West, but I couldn't play that for more than an hour and a half. So for me, immersion comes from other things. But if it's important, it's important. I appreciate that.
Well, I think what it is you're in that first city on New Atlantis,
yep.
And you want to go halfway across the galaxy to another planet, and all it involves is a couple button presses. And that's what I'm talking about. That's where
what would you want it to do?
Well, okay, so when you're in space, I don't know if you've noticed this, but when you're in space, you can look at another planet that is within your galaxy, and you can just push a button while you're in. You don't have to go to the map. You don't have to exit your chair. You don't have to do anything. You can just push a button and go directly to that planet, like directly from. So I haven't done it. I've looked. Okay, there's the galaxy. I'm gonna push ludicrous speed, and boom, I'm gonna have a loading screen, which is fine. I'm not against loading screens. Like I said,
Yep.
It doesn't bother me that there are loading screens, but it's how the game takes away that feeling that I'm in the universe, and rather than just because you're in New Atlantis, you want to go somewhere else, you just bring up your map, you press a couple buttons, and then boom, you load over there, as opposed to the feeling like, no, you have to walk to your ship. You have to get to your ship first.
Oh, I would fucking blow my brains out if I had. Oh God! I mean, again,
but nothing's too far. Nothing's too far.
Oh God, no! I mean, this game has so much planet hopping, and again, there is no right answer, right? It's totally subjective.
Sure.
But for me, I would have stopped playing it if if for example, even in New Atlantis. If I'm on one side of New Atlantis and I want to go to a place called the Lodge, for example, and it's on the other side of the city, if I had to walk there every good goddamn time, there's no way I would have finished this game. I would have jumped out the fucking window.
Systems. They have the rail systems. Though,
I don't even want to walk to the rail system. I'm not gonna play the game. I just want to show people what you're talking about real quick while we're talking, because I mean, I'm not suggesting. Hang on, let me turn this down. I'm not suggesting that you're wrong. I absolutely think it can be immersion breaking if that is important to you, but maybe it's my ADD. I don't fucking know. But for me, I am so thrilled I don't have to worry about that shit.
Well, that's what I'm guessing. My point is that now it boils down to just a system of fast travels. Right?
Well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't boil down to that. I mean, like, okay, so if you're watching my screen, I'm on this planet. I came to this. I don't know what I'm doing. It's been a while. It's been earlier. I came to this planet. There are no spoilers here. My mission right now is I don't know. I gotta go talk to somebody. Who the fuck knows? Okay, so I went to this planet. And
watch that ground pounder mission. Oh wow, yeah, that's the one. That's my bugged mission. I can't finish that mission. It's bugged.
All right, so I'm on this planet. Blah blah blah. Okay, well, I'm kind of bored of this planet. I want to go somewhere else, or I've gotten enough resources that I'm totally happy. Let me kill this thing to get its resources. I really shouldn't kill it because he's not hurting me. But fuck you. Hey, fuck you. All right, whatever. All right, so I got his resources. I want to go back to New Atlantis and sell the resources. So for me, the fact that I can do this, hang on, oh, wrong button. That I can basically, I'm hitting the wrong button. I go up here to the map. I zoom out. I want to go to New Atlantis. I could zoom back. I could figure out where New Atlantis is. But if it's part of my mission, I can just hit this. And I want it to take me to where the mission is. And I say set course. And if I have enough fuel, I basically go there. I mean, I think that's fucking... hang on. I got to stop falling. I think that's awesome. If I had to actually turn around and walk back to my ship and fucking find it and all that shit, I think I would probably not be all that interested. But that has to have been an interesting design challenge for these guys, because certainly if you make it too realistic, I think you're going to end up with a lot of people being bored. But you're also going to have a situation where if you make it like it is, you're going to have people like you disappointed. So I don't know how they could have solved it other than...
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It definitely, it's sort of that double-edged sword. It's just that's what previous Bethesda games have been. You know, when you speak about a studio that has a type of game that they make... this one, you know, like I'd argue this isn't even an RPG at all in almost any capacity. You know, that's been stripped away from it.
Really? How is it not an RPG?
Well, I mean, we could get into the weeds with that, but
what aspect is missing? Well, yeah, what aspect is missing that you want that you feel needs to be there to meet the definition of RPG for you?
Well, I felt like your character didn't matter. The choices that you pick as a starting character are rather irrelevant. They only give you few dialogue choices here and there, and that itself doesn't really matter. I know early when I started, you're fighting those Crimson Pirates or the Crimson Raiders or whatever.
Yeah.
And then another mission, you go pick up a friend who's with those guys, and you walk right in, and they basically offer you tea and crumpets, and you're like, wait, what? Am I just supposed to be fighting you guys? It just felt like the decisions I've made for my starting character, the decisions that I make while playing it, don't have a grand impact. That's what I expect from an RPG.
How far are you in the main story? Because I have not found that at all. I have found that everything from criminal activity to major plot points on submissions and the main missions, it's pretty important what decisions you make. I mean, you may be right in the conversation trees. That I don't know about, but again, let me ask you this: have you played Baldur's 3?
No, I haven't. It was either this or Baldur's 3 for me. So
right. So I mean, I hear, and I will be playing that starting tonight. I hear that does scratch that itch, and I will be very curious to play that right after this, because I want to know what you're talking about, because my experience with this was that it felt very immersive, and it felt very much like a lot of key choices did matter. But it's everyone's different.
It's hard to talk about key choices without spoiling. So
yeah. All right, man. I'm going to let you go, but thanks for talking to me about it.
Appreciate the chat.
Anytime. See you soon. All right, we got. I'm just seeing the first letter of people's names. This person starts with an A. What's up? Oh, maybe not. Hang on. Hang on. All right, this is somebody's in the chat. Who can hear me and talk to me? Is there a person whose name starts with an A? That's who I'm trying to get. Somebody's wearing glasses in the avatar. If not, I'll bring on somebody else. Test. Okay.
That's me. Do you have my voice?
Oh, there you go. I can hear you now. What's going on?
Okay. Hi, Jeff. I want to talk about Starfield, actually. And
yeah.
I was into the game like 20 hours or something, and it felt very good. I don't think that Starfield have so many problems, obviously, that wouldn't make it a complete game. A complete game like Baldur's Gate, then it's complete and everyone gives it a 10 out of 10. But Starfield does one thing that is so important in very good does it so good, and it's and that's it. The definition of being a spaceman, go through the space and explore the world and everything like that. Actually, Starfield does it so well. About the thing that like people are saying that, for example, planets are empty, or for example, people want to seamlessly go through the planet without any loading or something. If that would be in a Starfield game, it would be so good actually. But the thing is that even though it's not there, it's not the option, but you will probably feel like that you're a space guy. You know what I'm saying? And actually, the Starfield, you said that Starfield is so much of like Star Trek. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What I think is that Starfield, more than be like a Star Trek situation, is more like an 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I think there is absolutely, yeah. Like I said at the very beginning of this stream, I think that these guys, there's a lot of 2001, there's a lot of 2010, there's a lot of Contact, there's a lot of Interstellar, there's a lot of Star Trek. I mean, I think this is a game that is clearly sort of built on the bones of, there's even some Doctor Who, a lot of that stuff, 100%. And I think that's a great comparison. I think there's a lot of 2001 in this, especially at the very, I'm not going to spoil it, but certain parts of it, absolutely.
Actually, at the first of the story, you see, actually, just so much of the story is so much like 2001: A Space Odyssey, okay? And everything from this game, everything from the Starfield, give you so good vibe of exploring into space.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
It fulfills that fantasy. It's wonderful.
You
All right,
can
man,
see
thank you. I appreciate the call, buddy. Thank you so much. Call back anytime.
Okay, bye.
Let me get these super chats and I'll bring in these texts. By the way, Mr. K says Jaffe on defining Duke Starfield spoiler cast will be maximum diversity and inclusion. I mean, I've never been on one of their spoiler casts. If they want me, they know where to find me. That would be a lot of fun. But I assume they've already recorded it. But sure, if they want me, I'm there. Where'd it go? Osseous. Thanks for the super chat. He says, for the chat, why is everybody harping on about this game being more Skyrim and Fallout? Yes, most Sony games are the same third-person template. I mean, Ragnarok is just 2018 with a new paint job. I mean, again, some people will tell you, like 2 callers ago, it's not like Skyrim because the immersion. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think, so. It would be nice to be able to separate the stupid fanboys who just want to hate things and love things, not based on what they are, but based on some sort of point system they have in their dumb brain, from people who actually have valid criticism. So I think people who say, I wanted a more immersive, connected universe, I think it's a valid thing, especially if you've had that experience in Skyrim. But I can tell you, for me, there's no way I would have fucking finished this game if I had to continually walk back to my fucking spaceship. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But, hell, maybe they should have had Star Trek-like transporters, and then they could have explained it a little better. I don't fucking know. But thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. All right, let me get Casual Noob Gamer.
What's going on, Jaffe?
Well, not much. What's going on with you?
Nothing much, man. Listen, I have a kind of a unique experience because I've only played a couple of hours of the game.
Yeah.
Now, I got it on release. I got that early release thing.
Yep.
And I was very excited for this. But I have a bit of an issue going on with my eyes right now.
Mm-hmm.
So when the prompts were coming up on screen, I couldn't read them fast enough to get that magnifying glass thing on the Xbox on to see what it was saying. So I was kind of lost in the beginning.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, okay.
But once I figured out what was going on, oh my goodness, is this like an amazing game? And my OCD is off the charts with this game because
I know.
I don't know. Like I started out like I was following out the first girl from Constellation,
mm-hmm.
and she brought me the guy from Vanguard. He's like, "Do you want to join Vanguard?" And I'm like, "Oh, do I?" Because I heard that like once you join a faction, it like shuts down other factions. So I'm like, maybe I should really think about this. and like I kind of don't want to do side stuff because I heard do the main stuff first.
That's what I did. So I had opportunities to join factions. I accidentally joined a faction. It didn't really make a difference because I didn't do anything with them. But I just was like 90% of my game was main quest, and I only went off the path when something seemed really interesting. And there was a lot that was interesting, but really compelling. So for me, that's how I played it, and I loved that. It was excellent.
So if you want to hear a little story for you guys and the people listening, I was listening to Ryan McAfee from Xbox Unlocked.
Yeah.
And he said he was talking to someone at a bar, an NPC, and he accidentally clicked the right stick to and hit the NPC, and the police came to arrest him to take him away.
Yeah.
And he figured, oh, that's it, that's the end of my game. But then the police recruited him to be an informant.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I went into a bar in a place called The Well, and I didn't know I couldn't steal things. And again, if you've played a lot of Bethesda games, you know this, but I was just like, oh, there's a hamburger. I'll save that for later. And suddenly the cops were there, and, you know, I'm not ashamed to say that I was quick saving and reloading, you know, often enough that, you know, like there was one point where they did arrest me, and I was like, and they gave me options, and I'm like, no, delete, reload from 10 minutes ago, because I wanted to get that main story going. But yeah, I mean, that's what I think is super immersive about all their games, but certainly this game as well. Loved it.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really intrigued too, but like I also have this issue where like I start a game and then I just don't finish it because I don't want it to end.
Well, that's a good reason. I mean, my issue is with open world games that I don't finish is usually because I do just go with what looks interesting at the moment. And by the time I've played 30 hours, I'm bored of it, as most people would be, and the main story is still only 30% done, and I'm like, I'm good. But this game, the story was so compelling, and I also knew not to do that anymore, that it actually was a great experience. All right, man, thank you for the call. I appreciate it, bud.
Thanks, Jeff. Have a good one.
You too. All right, this is somebody in the chat who goes, A? Is there somebody called A?
Yo, what's up?
What's up? What's your name? I don't know who I'm talking to. It just says A.
Oh, Apsy. How you doing?
Apsy. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Is my voice okay? I'm on my phone because I'm like out of town right now.
You sound fine.
All right, cool. Yeah, there's something not a lot of people are talking about, and I found it brilliant, honestly, and it's their emergent systems and their procedural generation. I'm finding really, really cool.
Okay.
I don't know if he bumped into a lot of stuff or if he explored random planets or whatever, but I mean, in my first like little zone that I explored, I got roped into smuggling something for people.
Yep.
And they threatened me and shit, which bit me in the ass later. I met like a wacky photographer outside a cave. I helped him through some shit, and then, yeah, like 40 hours down the line, I found him in Sidonia, and now he's part of my crew. And there's a lot of shit that I'm just finding.
Did he, let me ask you this, when you found him 40 hours later, did he remember you?
Yeah. He's like, yo, thanks a lot for helping me out and stuff, and I had the option to recruit him.
That's the one thing I'm critical about, and is that was absolutely inconsistent for me, which was I would do things with NPCs, and some of them would remember, like they were just minor things. And other times I would do this crazy shit with NPCs and they would witness this shit, and I'd see them again and it's like they had no recall of this big thing we had just gone through.
No.
I'm like, you know,
yeah, I do get that sometimes.
Maybe that'll get fixed. Maybe they're like, look, we can only do so much. We'll patch that out over the years. But yeah, I mean, that sense of, that's what I'm enjoying now, because what I did do is whenever I would land on a moon or a planet or whatever, I would, you know, do the scan. And there's like, oh, there's an unknown thing here, and there's a weird sound here, and you're getting a weird signal there. And every time I explored, it's not like every time it was some great quest, but you would find things that would be very compelling and interesting. Like there was this one thing I found, this massive stone spire as tall as a skyscraper. And I was just like, okay, I want to see what's on top of that. And I just didn't have the jetpack to do it yet. And by the time I got the jetpack, I couldn't find where it was anymore. But I know there was some fucking thing up on top of that fucking thing. And I'm like, I hope I can find it again. So yeah, I mean, the sense of being. Let me ask you this question: the sense of being in the place of Starfield, of the world. Have you felt yourself immersed, or you agree with some of the Skyrim people where it's like it's not as immersive a game as the earlier ones?
I don't know, man. Like, honestly, I've played No Man's Sky. I played some Star Citizen. I played a lot of Elite Dangerous, and like the seamless travel between like planet and space and shit. I just don't give a fuck about anymore.
I
understand, and yeah, I understand game development. There's always a push and pull, right? Like, if you want this kind of immersive experience of being no loading screens and stuff, you're gonna have to make some sacrifices elsewhere. I don't think No Man's Sky or Elite Dangerous or any of those are providing the stories and detail that you're getting in Starfield. So I definitely take an RPG in space over just being able to go everywhere with no loading screens. So I don't really care about that.
I'm with you there. Do you think they? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that's it.
Well, I was wondering, do you think they maybe messed up a little bit, not in overhyping the game, but they went years without really setting expectations for what this was. And so it really did allow a lot of people to sort of put on it their dream space game, whatever that means for you as an individual.
I feel like they meandered like around that point. Like they didn't outright say stuff, right? They just went like, yeah, you can do this and that. They didn't outright lie, but they weren't like completely clear on what it was going to be. You can treat it like Mass Effect, you know? Like if you go into it being like, okay, this is an RPG in space, not a space sim RPG, I think you'd like it better.
Yeah.
Because, you know, yeah.
I wonder why they didn't do that. I wonder now they're like, oh, we should have done that. We would have had better goodwill. But I'm sure it's going to do great. I fucking love it. Let me ask you this. Where, in all the games you've played this year, where does this one rank? Is it in the top 3 for you, or it's not that good?
Well, Baldur's Gate 3 was my game of the year, but I think this takes the cake. But here's the thing, though. Like, but there's something that Bethesda games kind of provide. I don't know how to put my finger on it, but I don't know if it's freedom or just like some weird wacky shit, but it just gives me that feeling that I get only once every like 8 years or something, right?
Do you think this game gives you more freedom than Baldur's 3?
In a different way. So Baldur's Gate 3 is more story oriented with its freedom of choice.
Okay.
I feel like more of like a not linear, but I feel like its freedom of choice is more based around the story. But Starfield for me is like, see, here's something that they did that was very, very smart. I feel like a lot of have this main story that has a sense of urgency that when you try to do anything else, you kind of feel disconnected. Like even Fallout 4, right? It was like, hey, go save your son. So if you're doing anything else, it kind of takes you out of it because you're not saving your son.
Right.
But with this one, the main story, well, for now, I didn't delve too much into it. I'm 60 hours in, but I've only done like 2 main story quests.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's about like, you know, exploring the galaxy and finding out the meaning of the universe or whatever.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have that urgency that like pulls me in, that makes me not want to do other stuff. Have you done any Ryujin shit? Like, did you go to Neon and?
Oh yeah, I suck at it. I really wish they had.
You know?
If you know what he's talking about, you're talking about like where you can like plastic surgery, basically. You can remake the way you look, right?
Oh no! It's working for a big corporate. Industry.
Oh no! I haven't done any of those. I just did the main quest first because I knew I would get distracted and never finish. Why is that? Are those good missions?
They're insane. So here's the thing. What I was trying to get at is like the freedom that it's giving me is like there's so many different thematic kind of quests, ranging from like obviously slice of life stuff, and those little activities that can sometimes blow up into main quest lines, like big quest lines. But like all these different themes, they give you a different feeling in a space setting, right? So like a Ryujin thing kind of feels like a cyberpunk corpo thing that I wanted out of cyberpunk, that this game is providing me more than that, to be honest. But
I get that. I love that. There was a part in this game where me and two members of Constellation were having to. It was this. It was a corporate kind of thing. I don't think it's the same thing where we were having to fight our way down. Kind of like there was a mission like this in Cyberpunk from a skyscraper and get outside. And it felt like it was like a heist sci-fi movie. And like 8 minutes after that mission, I'm running around on my own on this desolated planet looking for like something aliens had built billions of years ago. And I'm like, it's the same fucking game. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. All right, man. Well, listen, thank you so much for calling. Nice to talk to you, buddy.
Yeah, for sure, man.
All right.
See ya, man.
See ya. All right, let me bring in Dev Kit. Dev Kit, it's Jaffe. What's up? Devokito. Dev Kit.
Oh, there we go.
What's going on,
Can
man?
you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet. Starfield yet. I just been watching other people playing it, and I'm still hesitant to get it, or like I don't know. There's some things I've been seeing about the game.
What is the thing that? What is the thing that is pushing you the most away from invest? I mean, do you have Game Pass?
I was going to get it. I was going to stream it on my TV.
Okay, so I mean, it's an investment of $15, right? So you're not going to have to buy hardware or anything like that. So what's keeping you from giving it a try then? What are you seeing?
It's not like the other Bethesda titles. Like, I want immersion, like how Fallout was, and like I don't know if there's companions.
There are. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Lots of them. Yeah.
The only thing that's bugging me, I hate to say this, is the not getting to land onto the planet or fly around.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. It's kind of like the last caller was saying. You know, he's played. What? What, you weirdo? What is it? Are you hungry? You want a potty? You want water? You want love? You want attention? I don't know what the fuck this dog wants. Anyway. What? Come here. Come here. What is it? Hang on, Dev Kid. What the fuck? Okay, yeah, get up there. You're fine. Shit, what were we talking about? My dog lost my fucking mind. He wants a chunks cube. That's right. What were you at? What were you talking about, Dev Kid? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, he's saying that there are, you know, you can fly around, you can do all the stuff you're talking about. Those games exist. This just isn't that. So if that's what you're longing for in a game like this, then sure, this probably isn't for you. But I think, like you said, if you're looking for more of a great action adventure that feels like Star Trek and is less about spaceship simulation and more about sort of losing yourself in this great adventure, but also very interesting narrative about humanity and its place in the universe, I think this absolutely delivers. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's what you're looking for if you're looking for the stuff you're describing.
Well, I just wanted like Fallout in space. That's what I really wanted, like that type of game.
I haven't played Fallout that much, so you'd have to ask someone else. But it's only, you look, man.
Or
$10 is
Skyrim.
$10 or $15 is $15. Nothing's free. But if you got the money and it won't cost you much, the good news is, you know, it's easy to try on your TV. If you don't like it, there's a gajillion other games, including space games. There's a game they just put out on Xbox Game Pass 2 weeks ago. I forget what it was called, but people say it's really good. It was more of an actual space combat thing. It was a sequel, but people were like, "Oh, it's really fucking good." So, you know, I don't think you can go wrong with a month on Game Pass just to try a bunch of stuff anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Cool, Dev Kid. I hope you're well. Hope your mom is well. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah. You too.
All right, man. I talked to his mom a couple of weeks ago. Everspace 2, that's what it's called. Thank you, Black Moon. She has multiple personality disorder. And I was like, oh, you have to come on the show. And she's like, yeah, I will. So I'm going to bring her on soon. I'm fascinated by that. Okay, let me get the super chat. First off, Levi Sorensen, thank you so much for becoming a member of our little clan of motherfuckers. I appreciate that, buddy. Let me give you a let me give you a what am I going to give you? Let me give you a sound. Let me give you this is something to say to the next person that gives you a bunch of fucking shit. Okay? I'm giving you this as a gift. Hang on. You can tell them if I can fucking find it. Here you go. I want to fuck my game disc. There's a hole after all. Absolutely. Levi, thank you, buddy. Good to have you here, sir. And then we got a super chat from Aussie. He says, thank you, buddy. He says, as a veteran, who is the most consistent in game design between Todd Howard, Warren Spector, Will Wright, the two Johns and doctors from BioWare, and Ed Boon? Ed Boon, probably. But I mean, again, Todd Howard didn't design this game. He was not the lead designer. There was a lead writer and a lead designer who's the same guy. Todd Howard was the game director. So I don't know, what he contributes at a level of design that you can compare consistency. I mean, clearly his career is consistent. And what he's made as the head of those games is consistent. But I can't get into the weeds on his design stuff because I don't know if that's really him or if that's this other guy. Will Wright is probably... Well, no, Will Wright, I would say, is probably the most consistent at a meta level in that all of his games seem to be about tinkering with things in game systems in order to... be compelling and also to say something about something, like at a metaphorical level. John Romero has made so many different kinds of games, which is amazing. Ed Boon, I don't think is a designer, but his games are clearly the most consistent, is what I would say. But it's all subjective. Who really fucking knows, man? All right, fellas, there you go. That is the free swim Starfield conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. I sure did. I hope if you're interested in the game, you give it a shot. It won't cost too much money just to try it. And if you love it like I do, you can buy the goddamn thing if you want to, and if you have the ducats. But in the meantime, I will be back tomorrow. Normal streams start tomorrow again. Appreciate you putting up with my absence, but I just fell in love with this game, and I wanted to do a proper review for it, and so that'll be going up this weekend, maybe even tomorrow. But tomorrow, there's a lot of game news going on. We will talk about it all. Be well. New members, welcome. Super chats, thank you. Old members, thank you. People who are just here, welcome. And have a good rest of your night. I will see you soon. Oh, Gravedigger says, Jaffe, does the game control well enough in third person to play it entirely? I found there were places where I really wanted to use third person. Those were mostly like the platforming. Not that there's like Mario or Banjo-Kazooie platforming, but like, when you're trying to sort of jetpack into structures and land in certain places, that was great. And in open world, it's fine. I played that way a little bit, but I just kind of forgot about it. Interior, the first person, the third person is not good. It's very hard to control. I mean, it's not like it's impossible. It's not like it's what was that Jurassic Park first person game that was just a physics nightmare. But you find yourself running into walls and rotating the camera to get somewhere, and you rotate a little bit too much. So I have not enjoyed the third person interior, but short of that, it's great. Okay. The camera gets in the way. I don't even think it's that. Trespasser, that's what it's called. It's where the camera's positioned. I don't know what it is, but it's like you find yourself getting hung up on geometry because you oversteer the camera a little bit. So, all right. Anyway, I'm out, fellas. I'm off. I'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you, mods. And I'll be back tomorrow. Bye, you guys. Where's that? There we go. Come on now. The music is so good. Ace, speak. 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 Are you not going to do it? Speak. 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 He's not talking. Hey, speak. Good boy, speak. There you go. There you go. Be well, fellas.
That's a huge bitch!
I can't help but be racist. It's true.
God damn it, Maverick!
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust. Just normal, man. Just innocent, man.